Oh, I think they help education. I didn't go to private school. Brittany did.
I went to private school.
I think a lot of the private schools, the education that the kids get is better than in the public schools.
I think it takes a burden off the system as well. You've got parents paying into a program, so they're not taking as much money away from the government as public schools are. So it kind of, it should, in theory, take some pressure off the public school system.
Well, it helps the people who can afford to send their kids to the private school, but it hinders everybody else.
I think it can be good for education. I went to a private school and we just got smaller classrooms and more individualized teaching programs probably, but I think there's obviously pros and cons of both.
I'm actually kind of jealous of the private school kids because they can do their exams and all that stuff. So, I don't know, I think there's benefits to having private and public because for those who can't afford education, they can go into public. And I mean, if you got that extra money to spend, go for it. Go into private education. I think it can be good.
I believe it hinders because the private schools limit who they take into their schools. They don't take their share of special needs students. That's left up to the public school system. And when they do that, they create a school system whereby only the private schools have the top students and not the ones that have difficulty.
I think if you can afford private school, then that's a great option. Unfortunately, for a lot of us, we can't afford it. I think maybe the teachers should go to a public school and, you know, they all should be together, but it's one of those things where if you have the money to pay for it, well, you're going to get the better education and the better service.
Do you think private schools should be able to qualify for 50% funding from the government like they do now?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe if that money got put into public schools, then we'd have more help for our students.
Do you think public schools should be able to qualify for 50% of their funding from the provincial government?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Parents are paying into these programs. The money's there for people to use, for, you know, for education, for infrastructure. It's there because we're paying into it. So we should get to use it for our children and for our growth as a society. Absolutely.
I think that's fair. Parents and other bodies are willing to pay the other 50% and then the full education is paid for.
Yeah, I disagree with that too.
100%.
I don't think they should get funding. I think more of the funding should go to public schools, to be honest. Because we've got the textbooks in our public schools are ridiculous. They're from like 1980, some of them. So.
No, I don't think they need the funding that they currently do have. I think if the funding that they were given went to the public education, it'd be much more useful. It could pay for the teachers, the smaller classrooms, all the things that the private schools already do get. So I don't think it's necessary.